Hey there, my friends. Welcome to HR Tech Talks. I'm Ben Eubanks, your host, and so glad to be here with you. Looking forward to, as always, a fun conversation. Looking forward to learning some new things and get some new ideas about how technology and work are fitting together. So, as always, if you're out there, go ahead and chime in. Let us know where you're connecting from. I love to see where everybody is, whether you're watching live or watching this on replay. Does not matter. If you're catching us later on in the day, as many people end up doing, or watching this even a week, 2 weeks from now, it doesn't matter. The content's still good. You're going to get some good ideas around employee experience. So today we're going to dive into what EX is. We're going to get some good ideas around how we can evolve that and think about it in more tactical and specific ways, because it becomes this really big and vague thing. I've mentioned that probably a couple of times on the show in the last couple of months, because it's one of those, when I see someone mention it, I'm like, it flips a little switch. I want to respond to it. Like, we need to be more specific. We need to dive into the nuances of that, things like that. I actually had a chance last fall someone asked me to judge some entries for a competition, and the category was employee experience. And the stuff was across the spectrum, from the benefits people were offering to what it looked like in hiring to training and everything else. And the hardest part for me was figuring out, how do you compare something over here versus over there? So anyway, enough of that. Today, our guest is from Phenom. And if you're not familiar, Phenom is one of the HR Tech Award winners from last year. And heads up, we've got just about 2 more weeks left until the HR Tech Awards closes for the year. So if you want to, if you're a company out there that's doing the technology thing, check it out, hrtechawards.org. You can learn more about that. And again, Phenom is a winner. They won for practical use of AI last year. So really using these tools to get into and automate some of the things we're doing to create better experiences, not to take away the human, but to emphasize that, as we'll hear from Jesus in the conversation today. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring him in. Welcome to the conversation. So glad to have you, sir. Welcome.
Hey, Ben. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. Looking forward to some fun conversation around this. And I told you before we started recording that, honestly, this is one of my passion areas, one of the areas I feel most strongly about, because we've done a lot of research in the area and things like that. So it'll be a ton of fun. Before we get to some of the fun stuff that I'm excited about, would you take a minute and tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please?
Yeah. So my name is Jesus. My title is Lead Product Manager at Phenom. So I focus essentially on everything employee experience related. So all the way from internal mobility to career pathing. Now we focus more on the growth, retention, learning, and development side of the employee experience.
I love that you bucket that as growth, retention, right? That piece of it, because for a long time, I know I've been guilty of. Phenom started out, for everybody out there in the background, started out as a talent acquisition platform, and they do so much more. And so one of the reasons I have Jesus on today to talk about this from that perspective is they have continued to iterate and evolve and expand what they're doing outside of just talent acquisition. They're still doing great work there, but now they're doing it in other areas too. So I wanted to have a chance to dive into some of those things for my own benefit. I use these as research, but also for everybody else out there that follows and wants to know more about it, it'll give you a chance to dive into some of those things. So you mentioned the job title and the stuff you do at work. Before we get to some of the nerdy stuff, what do you do when you're not sitting there wearing your product manager hat?
Oh, good question. Good question. A lot of it involves being attacked by my dogs. I have 2 big dogs. They're all over me every time. I'm shocked they're not on this meeting with us. But I do like also going kayaking, doing outdoor stuff. I'm a big video game aficionado too, so
Okay.
Do a lot of that in my free time, and a lot of that tends to spark those light bulbs for me as a product manager.
Okay. Awesome. That's real. We should come back to that one too. Actually, that's a good comment to circle back on. So as I kind of queued it up a little bit for you a minute ago, Phenom started as TA, right? That's the big focus of the company, but now it's really expanded into other areas like employee experience. And I'd like to hear from you in your words. Why is that?
Yeah, so I think, when we think about our company mission, and if you go to our website, it's all over, it's plastered everywhere. It's why we're a company. We're really focused on helping 1 billion people find the right job. And when you think about that statement, a lot of times people tend to think about, all right, external candidates, but external candidates finding the right job with the right organization is a critical aspect of our job too. But we also want to find the right jobs for the internal employees, those that maybe started off in a career path that maybe just didn't suit them properly, or maybe they just want to grow into their career within the organization, find the next opportunity, find the next challenge. We see all of that as being part of our mission, right? It doesn't just start as a candidate, but it evolves in develops even further as you become an employee.
One of the things you touched on earlier, you kind of threw out internal mobility, right? Career pathing. I love the idea that this isn't just about finding someone else to bring into the business, because I've been the person that's been stepped over in the past. And I've also unintentionally stepped over someone because we didn't know what their skills were, what their interests were, what paths they were interested in. We assumed, oh, they're in this job, and until they tell us verbally, they're going to stay in that job and they're okay with it. And for me, it feels like the technologies have helped to lower that barrier and lower the weirdness, the awkwardness about having that conversation, in some companies at least, where I can say, hey, by the way, I don't have a vision of myself doing this for the next 10 years. I want to do that, or I want to explore this, or I want to look at those kind of things. What are you hearing when you're working with customers? Is it that same kind of thing? Is this a way to lower that barrier so it makes it more comfortable? Is it about solving some other kind of problem like retention you talked on earlier? It could be a combination. I'd just love to hear from you. Like, how are you hearing that? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one piece of the puzzle that we're definitely hearing, right? We hear it from that exact scenario where, hey, I'm starting my career in this department or this business unit, or maybe I'm coming into your organization as this specific job title. But how do I get to the next level, and when can I get to that next level? And that next level, a lot of folks tend to think about it as a linear path, right? I'm a product manager. My next role is going to be senior product manager. But what's not always clear is those not so apparent paths, right? We see that a lot here at Phenom. We see a lot of our sales development teams come in. They start out in sales, but they're moving on into HR. They're moving on into marketing. These are all paths that weren't very prominent in the organization, or they weren't really, unfolded or made transparent to these employees to know that, hey, you maybe don't want to go in this trajectory. Maybe you want to go somewhere else. So I think we're hearing it in those two aspects: those that want to focus on that linear growth, those that maybe want to expand, reskill, upskill. I think that's really what I've been hearing in the market.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of a story. One of my good friends used to, when I was the HR manager for an organization, we actually had her she got her degree in engineering. She was working as an engineer, but she didn't love it. She was not enjoying it thoroughly. She did her job well, and people, liked her in that, but she knew that she wanted to do something else. Yeah. And so she kept talking with her leaders about this, and her manager was the director of engineering. He's like, well, your next step is engineer 2. She's like, but I don't, that doesn't interest me at all. And so at some point they eventually realized that if we don't give her something else, she's going to leave. And everybody appreciated the inputs from her. And so they said, you know what do you want to do? She said, I really like the program manager job over there, like the kind of project lead that doesn't require me to do all the coding and everything. So we were still small as an organization to say, okay, we're going to create this new path. Instead of it being just this path, just that path, there's a one in the middle that kind of blends both of those two. And so she became a technical program manager, where she understood enough of the coding piece to really keep tabs on that and can understand it and translate that for the business results. But she also got to step into the business side of things and talk about staffing and resourcing and budgets and all the other things. And it was like a dream for her. She's still in that role. That was 9 years ago. She's still in that role today for that same company, because that was making her dream come true. And it's so much fun to think about that kind of thing happening for customers all over that are using the Phenom platform to do that kind of thing internally.
Yeah, it's great you mentioned that, because that's kind of my story too, from a background perspective. I started more in the security side of the house. I integrated systems. It was great. I liked it, but I wanted more of the real impact that I can bring to customers with my thoughts, my ideas. And that's, in my previous org, we didn't have that career path as an option, right? I couldn't get into product management if I wasn't, within a business department or things like that. It's interesting that you're seeing that too.
Yes. Well, it's just an example, especially right now. So that was way back when talent was all over the place. We just really loved her and wanted to keep her because she had great ideas and everything else that were beyond her scope of her role. She was already giving some indicators that she was not meant to be siloed in this forever. But today, when we're talking to leaders and I'm talking to heads of talent and heads of learning and heads of HR, what do we do to keep people? And all the data we have shows that giving them a career path, giving them some mobility options, even giving them a mentor, connecting them in, those sorts of things are going to lead to better retention. And that's a big challenge right now. So if that was important then, it's doubly, triply important today, I would say. And I know there's some really great stories and examples that I've seen of some of the customers. Do you have one that you could throw out there for us, even if it's anonymous? I don't care.
Yeah. Actually,
using the EX product.
This one's a really fun one. This one actually kind of hits close to me as a product manager because it really puts into perspective what I'm building. But we were working with a global pharmaceutical company. We're building out career paths for their organization. This is brand new for them. They've never done this. They've had data digitized in 8-9 different places, but never knew how to combine all of that to make something transparent for users. And it's funny because we did sort of a user research operations with some of their employees, and one of their employees was a 15-year vet in the organization. And this quote stands out to me every time I think about career pathing and how we're building it. But she actually came to us and said, "Holy cow, I didn't even know all of these things were possible within this organization. And I've been here for 15 years. Like that is powerful to me, just all on its own. That's one example, but we've had other examples too, where, as an organization, we do a lot with tracking data. We look at data very, very aggressively. That's how we sort of decide how to build our products. Super interesting that last year, we had about 300,000 applications internally happen across all of our customers. And out of that, we found 80,000 people got an internal application or an internal job offer. These are people that didn't have to look outside of the organization. They found what they needed inside the organization and just moved on.
You said 300,000 internal?
Yeah. Just across all of our customer bases.
Yes, but 80,000 of those ended up getting some kind of offer for that.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Exactly.
I told you, this is for researching. I'm taking notes over here because I think that's a great number to fall back on. Mm-hmm. And for the companies we're working with, we're talking to, you've used the word transparency a couple of times. I know that in the research we did last year, one of the big things we found when we surveyed talent acquisition leaders, they said the way we're trying to solve for mobility, as an example, it's not all that this does. We're talking a lot about it right now because I love it, and I'm going to keep you on the spot for a little bit. But we found that talent acquisition leaders said we are trying to make the opportunities we have inside the business transparent for people who are already here, instead of stepping over them to look at someone else outside. But when we asked learning development leaders the same question, they said we're also using transparency, but they don't have the jobs to offer, right? That's not their thing. So their way was, we have all these career paths we've built and all these architectures for what it takes to move from level to level. We're going to make that very open, and we're going to democratize that, put it in the hands of our people so they can look at and sift through those opportunities, like that person you talked about a minute ago, and say, look, these are all the potential paths out there. It's not just one or two, it's 57 different paths, and you have varying degrees of fit for those. Your skills may be a great fit for this here, and not so much over there. And you can make some more informed decisions as a person, instead of taking that and centralizing it with a head of talent or a senior leader who's trying to move the chess pieces around. You put that into the hands of the people to say, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. And it just changes the narrative dramatically, it feels like to me.
I would 100% agree. And I'd like to tack on a little bit to that too.
Yes.
When we think at Phenom, when we think about transparency, we like to add one more facet to that, which is actionability, right? It's awesome that organizations are starting to think about putting these job opportunities directly in their employees' hands, but how do you make it personalized to them, where they are today, where they want to go tomorrow? And if it's where they want to go tomorrow, how do you give them the tools in one single unified platform to give them the opportunities, but also the ability to learn, develop themselves, grow within the organization to be a better fit tomorrow for that role that they want to take, or that career path that they want to grow into in the next 5 years?
Not only is that important, it's almost like doing a survey and then getting the inputs and doing nothing.
Yeah.
Right. It's transparency without any of the action piece of this. It's almost worse, because you're saying, hey, that's all the stuff that is out there. Good luck, sucker. You're never going to get it. And we're not giving you any tools to reach that. We're not giving you a process. There's no path to step into that. It's just, you can see all of it out there on the horizon. The grass is really green over there, but there's no bridge for us to get you there. So the actionability piece, I think, is critical. That is the enabler to help these people take those next steps and reconnect them. And I'd love to get your take on this. The way that I put it, because some people there are managers who say, yeah, but I don't want to lose on people, right? Or what if they move, and that's going to create a hole in my team. Number one, they'll probably leave anyway. If you hold them too tightly, they'll leave anyway. So keep that in mind. But the second thing is, when anyone gets a job offer, including you got this job offer to come and work and you feel desired and wanted, and that's a really incredible feeling. When we give someone else a chance inside the business for another role, we give them a chance to step into something else. We give them a chance to lead into another position that they're excited about. It recreates that feeling all over again, where they say, I see you, Jesus, what you bring to the table. You have an incredible set of skills and these ideas are amazing. We want what you have and we want it all over again for this new role. Like that's part of this thing on a micro level that bubbles up to a company level of that's retention and engagement and performance and the other metrics everybody cares about.
Yeah, absolutely. I would 100% agree. And I think I'd even challenge, anyone that manages a team. The way I kind of think about it with my own team internally is, I'm here to watch you succeed. My goal as a manager is your success. And if your success means, you move on to a different career path, I see that as a positive win for me. Long term, short term, it might be a little painful because I'd have to backfill, but that's I think that's why we're here. We're here to help those find success within the organization and stay with the organization so that tomorrow maybe they might refer a friend who would take over their role that maybe they moved away from. These are all things that we think about.
Wish I could remember the exact quote. I heard someone about 2 weeks ago. I had a chance to speak at an event and I was talking to leaders about the best leader they ever worked with. And one of the women raised her hand and said, I had a leader who pulled as she climbed. She climbed a rung on the ladder and then she'd pull up someone behind her. Every step she went, she pulled someone else up. And I was like, that visual is incredible. Yeah. You think of the superhero in the movie, they're pulling someone over the cliff or whatever else, trying to save them. And that's what this leader was doing. She said that was the thing that made the most radical difference to her in her entire career. This one person doing that one specific behavior on a consistent basis changed everything for her. And to your point there, I think that's a very mature perspective of leadership. Most managers are bosses and, you're here, you're mine, you're on my team, you do what I tell you. But the ones who have that maturity, who really look to it as a leadership opportunity and as a privilege to lead others, they have that perspective you're talking about here, where it's, I am here to enable you to succeed. And if that's succeeding here, tremendous. If that's helping you succeed in another role, hopefully it's within the walls of the business because we're still going to get the benefit of your creativity and your ideas and your expertise and all those things you bring to the table. But a great leader says, I can't hold you down because then I'm holding you back.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't agree with that. I agree 100,000%.
We've talked about kind of mobility and career pathing, but there's some other things in this, like connecting people with mentors.
Yeah.
Right. Is that part of this? Talk about that aspect of it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's really fascinating.
Before I jump into that, we actually have sort of really been thinking about, what problems do we help solve for organizations? And I think we've kind of trickled it down to 6 key takeaways or 6 key objectives. And I think we've covered a good chunk of those now, but opportunity, making things transparent to the employees. We cover trajectory, seeing what's available in my near future. Experiences and development is all about just giving those action items, those action tools to employees to be able to say, I want to take this course or I want to take this gig or project work within the organization. But 2 aspects that kind of really connect people together is more about belonging and connection. Now, belonging is sort of a buzz phrase, but we see that more as a way of keeping your employees engaged with your tools, with your organization, with your platform. So it could be things like employee resource groups. A lot of organizations we work with also do business resource groups, right? Having a location where common ideas, common thoughts can be shared. And lastly, also connection, right? Finding the right people at the right time within the organization that you can either have a lunch date with, have a coffee break with, or, just establish a mentorship program. It could be somebody from a different department or business unit that you might have interest that you want to just learn more about. Having that single platform that connects all of that at that point in time is very crucial for Phenom as well.
That reminds me of the story I was telling about the climb and lift, essentially, right? That person that mentors you doesn't have to be just your direct leader. It can be someone else somewhere in the business, and being able to connect with those people and making it visible, making it apparent to people, because many of them don't always know who's the right person. Right? It's usually someone has a connection from a prior job or whatever else. But if you have someone inside the business, they can say, "Hey, here's how you navigate some of those weird unwritten rules we have," or "Here's how you if you're talking to this leader, here's how you bring it to their attention in a way that's going to really resonate with them. Having those kinds of insights can be incredible. And there's a lot of research that I've seen that says that is doubly important. So for women, because they don't often get one of the studies that I cite in the book, they were looking at performance data on men and women. And one of the things they found was they got about the same volume, but men got feedback that was helpful and women got feedback that was kind of condemning, but not actionable or specific. Hey, Jesus, you're great at this thing. Keep on doing that. If you want to get better, do this. Hey, Maria, you're not very good at that. You should probably figure out how to solve for that if you want to move up in your career.
Right.
Well, thanks for the help. I appreciate that. And so there's some good things to say for doing the mentoring thing there, but you also talk about some of the other communities and really building that sense of connectivity inside the business. And that has always been important. But in an organization that is more virtual and more remote and more dynamic than ever before, I'd say it's even more important. So there's a lot of good things going there. One of the things I wanted to ask you, because I just keep on throwing questions at you, and I had a question specifically I wanted to get to at some point, is there was a recent acquisition that Phenom made to bring some additional capability into the fold and everything else. Would you talk about that just a little bit? Because I haven't talked to anybody one-on-one with it, so I want to hear some of those things for myself and get some understanding of how that fits in this bigger picture.
Absolutely. So yeah, we just recently acquired a company out in Berlin called Tandemploy. Super strong group, very bright, very much have a similar mission to us. Their mission statement is really humanizing the workplace for employees. And you're not going to find 1 billion people the right job if you're not making work more human. And I think that's the strong set of skills that they're bringing to our organization, as well as they've had a lot of experience in the European market, and they do a lot with people-to-people connections, right? I talked a little bit about earlier, right? A lunch break. Something as simple as a lunch break goes a long way for somebody that's new to the organization. At Phenom, even before the pandemic, we were doing onboarding buddies, somebody that can just like guide you through the ropes of the organization itself. And, they take that a step further and just connect you to those that want to do that work with you. Coffee breaks, beer break, which is probably by far my favorite feature they have, is, just find somebody, go grab a beer, or a virtual happy hour. That goes a long way in creating engagement in the organization, creating that connection. And people stay for connections, for engagement. They don't stay. Well, I shouldn't say they don't stay, but a lot of times people don't tend to feel the need or the desire to stay with an organization they don't feel connected with.
Yes, for sure. Okay. So deepening those connections is really giving you some other tethers to the people, and then giving some more tethers to their peers and also to the organization as a whole as well. Okay. Incredible. Well, I love the idea of that, of bringing people more ways to connect, because you very rarely in the data do we see, what, my company is completely transparent with me. I feel like I'm up to date on everything. I feel connected as I can be, and I don't want any more. I'm full. That's very, very rare to see something like that. I had a study last fall or November, that one of the things in there was some open text responses from the workforce. How do you feel about your culture at work? And some of the responses in there would bring tears to your eyes to see how people talk about what it's like working for the organizations where they are. And one of the ones that sticks out to me, someone said, we have, no one listens, no one helps, and there's no hope for the future. And when those things happen, that's when people leave, by the way. Yeah. When there's a amazing book out there called Necessary Endings, and the author talks about the importance of realizing when there's no hope left, that's when a relationship ends. That's when a work relationship ends. That's when these things start to break apart. And when anybody feels like there's no hope or no future, that's when they're going to step away and find some other place where they hopefully will find a future. And the things we're talking about today are all ways to help them envision whatever that future might be, whether it's a career perspective or a mental perspective or anything related. You start to give them some hope for whatever is next for them.
Yeah, you literally just pointed why I love what I do right now, because it's given that hope in the products I'm building. It's seeing that impact. That's my favorite part about it.
Goodness. Okay, so you get to see across some of these incredible customers that y'all work with and what they're doing and the results they're having. If I gave you a magic wand, you go out there and wave it around someone's HR process or the talent process and give them some information or give them a new way of thinking about this, Is there some advice or something that you would do in that would help them to create better results on this front?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'd say two things. Number one, um, whether you start today or tomorrow, start thinking about your employee experience. That's not going to go
Mm.
away. Your employees are the most critical aspect of your business. You have to take care of them so that they take care of you, and you want them to stay within the organization. Um, Number two, and I like to always call this out. At the end of the day, regardless of title, regardless of experiences, we're all employees in one way or another. Just think
Mhm.
about how you want to be, how you would want the organization to kind of present these opportunities to you. Um, I think everyone would agree that having them in a single location, easy to find, easy to navigate, is the ideal example. Not everyone can get there right away. You always have to think about a crawl, walk, run approach. Think about those business units or departments in your organization that are struggling or maybe are thriving, and you want to put a heavier focus in those areas first. Always think about those perspectives, but I think ultimately start thinking about employee experience. If you haven't, it's going to be critical today. It's going to be critical tomorrow. It's going to be critical in 10 years from now.
Mhm. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. By the way, there's some good encouragement in there, and I think one of the things that sticks out to me is we're talking about we're talking about these things very specifically, right? It solves this problem, it solves that problem, it helps do this thing. But if we were to pan back even farther, as we talked about a minute ago, this is all about bringing some hope to the people that there is a future. We do care about you within the four walls of this business, and we do want the best for you. And as you said, start, just start. Don't try to take it all on. Just find something and go try to improve that, make that better, because that's a good recommendation. Because the if you would spend some time looking around, you could get paralyzed by how many options there are, different things. And we talked through some examples today. I don't want anyone to think, okay, now I've just got to go solve for these 7 or 8 things and I'll be good. No, just pick one, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to hold you to that. So, all right. If someone is interested in this, wants to know more about what Phenom is up to, and wants to know more about what you and your team are up to over there, what's the best way for someone to connect with the company or learn more?
Multiple ways, actually. We're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. You can check us out on phenom.com as well. My favorite by far is we host a Thursday live event as well, TXL. Come join us. It's always fun, and a lot of times it's not even talking about Phenom products in general, but just talking about what's going on in the market. What are we seeing? Last week we talked about performance, and that was a very interesting conversation. But yeah, just follow us on any of those channels. LinkedIn is by far, I think, the most active one for us, but we do follow on every channel.
Excellent. So if anyone's watching this on LinkedIn right now, again, live or the replay, doesn't matter. It'll actually be right there next to the video. You can click right over. You should be able to connect with Jesus, by the way. He's on there. He's tagged there. And you can also connect with Phenom. Just follow the company page and see what they're up to. Keep up with their updates, everything else, because they have some good things cooking. Jesus, thank you so much for joining me, for sharing some encouragement. I love seeing the passion here, by the way. We don't talk to that many product leaders here on the show. And so it's a ton of fun to talk to someone, get nerdy about what you're doing and how you're doing it, because I think the average talent leader needs to get that kind of insight into how these things are built and how you're trying to design for whatever those end results are, and help them understand that a little better, so that makes them a little more cognizant when they're looking to solve this problem. So you've hit a couple different birds with one stone with this. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I like I always said to my colleagues internally, I love these types of talks. They're a lot of fun.
Awesome. Wonderful. All right. To everybody else out there, I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Jesus. Got some good comments. Thank you, Rashawn and Philippa. Great conversation today. Learned some good things, and just second the nomination there on TXL. It's their great show on LinkedIn. You can see that every week, and it's a ton of fun. I've been on there a couple of times, and hopefully they'll have me back at some point to share some ideas and things and some of the new research as well. Thank you all for joining us. Appreciate you for hanging out with us. Go out there, take a little bit of time today to think about your employee experience, how you can improve that, connect with your people, and give them some hope for the future. Thank you so much.